Welcome to Bari Banter, where we talk everything bariatric surgery with the people that know it best, the patients. I'm Shannon, and I'm here with my co-hostess with the mostest,
Lita. So sit back, relax, and remember, sip, sip, sip.
Well, welcome back to episode 85. What have we got in store today?
We are going over the first 6 months of surgery.
Oh my God, yay.
But before we get there, I just want to say a happy 4 years to Shan.
Will it be? Because 19th of April.
Yeah, so I think when this comes out, it should be around then.
Oh,
so
wow. Happy
4
surgery.
years.
Like 4 years ago, I had a man inside of me chopping my organs out. Yay. It's funny, we just before this, because obviously it has been almost 4 years since we were in this stage. So we just was sitting there scrolling back through our Instagrams to try and refresh our memory of like things that happened. Alita's is a lot more elaborate than mine. I have literally 4 posts in the first 6 months on Instagram because I wasn't really doing the whole Insta thing. One's a picture of a cup of noodles, a sunset, and 2 of me playing golf.
Wow.
I know.
Well, I'm quite the opposite. I started my Instagram before surgery. So, like, I've got pre-op stage on here and everything. So, if you guys can be bothered scrolling all the way back down to the very bottom.
Yeah.
That's
I might even get you to send me some. We'll put it on the video.
2.5 years of Instagramming. But no, I'm kind of really grateful that I did do that because now I can actually look back and sort of see where I was at 4 years ago and that sort of thing. So
I thought the same thing as I was scrolling through my Instagram. I was like, oh my God, so many memories. I'm kind of glad I did kind of journal it to a degree to kind of be able to go back and be like, oh wow, I have actually done some stuff.
It's crazy how far things have gone.
Yeah.
So crazy.
I know, crazy. Well, first 6 months, we're going to start from the start and work our way out to 6 months. So let's start off with the hospital because, you know, that's kind of where it all kicks off.
Before we start there, how did you feel the night before? Like how leading into surgery, did you sleep the night beforehand? Were you nervous?
Yeah, I was very nervous because this is my first surgery, ever. So I was kind of like, you know, we kind of overemphasize everything. It's like, oh my God, I'm going to die on the table. Oh my God, I'm never going to be able to eat again. You know, it's like a lot of things that probably won't happen, but because we like to I like to overthink things. That was what was going through my head. Were you fearful of dying on the table?
No, I wasn't. I don't know, because I'd had a few operations before. Like I'd had my wisdom teeth out, I've had my tonsils out, I'd had knee surgery. Like I never really had the fear of dying on the table. Like in my mind, I was like, this is somebody's job. Like there's a surgeon in there who it's his job. He does it every single day. Like I just didn't have the fear. My fear was waking up afterwards because I know from previous operations that coming out of anesthetic, I'm not very good.
Yeah.
But we can touch on that.
Because everyone comes out differently, don't they?
Yeah.
Like some people come out feeling great. Some people come out feeling like a big bag of balls. Okay, we'll go with that too.
Balls, whatever.
Yeah. Also, this is like episode 2 of like kind of a series we're doing. We're going to work our way through. We did pre-op last month where we talked about pre-op. This is about the first 6 months, and then we'll like continue along. And we followed up with a guest who's in that period. So, you know, stay tuned if this is kind of like something you're working towards, or whether you want to just go back and down memory lane and be like, oh, where was I 6 months out? Then you know this is for you. So, it's just a brief little break from having guests on and just us having a little gas bag.
Listen to us for a little bit. So morning of surgery, Shan.
Yeah.
You're headed into the surgery. You were with Ash, were you?
Yeah, Ash picked me up, dropped me in there. I want to start finding some of the photos because like I've seen them and I use them as like before and afters sometimes. And it kind of it's good to look back on because you were so nerve-wracked and you didn't know what to expect. And if only you could get a glimpse of what was ahead, you would probably feel a lot better about the situation. Did your mum drop you in?
Mum took me in and she waited with me, I think probably for about the first half an hour or so before the nurses came and grabbed me and took me through to get me prepped and everything. So we were really lucky. COVID wasn't around that's what I was going to say. 3-4 years ago. So we actually had people that were able to come in and be there with us. So
yeah, because back when we did it, the surgery, the process was literally you went in, you sat in a pre-room with your person that brought you in usually, and then you'd go into the back bit and then they couldn't come with you. COVID's probably messed that up completely. They probably can't even come to the hospital with you these days. So, ours was, you know, you didn't see them until then you got out of surgery. So you're kind of on your own and, you know, playing on your phone and whatever it is. Because obviously after you get in the pre-room and you go into the back end, you go through some weird stuff, which, you know, I wanted to touch on, which is you go in, you get in your paper undies, you put your little gown on. Someone shaves you.
Yeah, that was
awkward.
I was kind of expecting to be like, you know, they put your TED stockings on and, you know, they weigh you, they get you all ready.
Oh, yeah, the socks. I forgot about them.
Yeah, the compression stockings. And then you get into your little disposable undies and then the next minute there was somebody there shaving my private bits.
Yeah.
I don't know why they were doing that. Like,
so all the way down to like your actual.
Like, well, pretty much a Brazilian. Like,
oh wow.
Yeah, for me. I thought,
maybe they were just giving you like you went to a private hospital. Yeah, maybe that's part of the package.
Feature. No, I'm pretty well kept, And then I was just kind of like, really? That's what? Are we sure we're having bariatric surgery? Like,
they're already down there,
operating on my stomach, right?
They're like, let's just touch her up while we're down here. You gotta look good. You gotta look good. For
I guess it's because
surgeon.
like if anything goes wrong, they can't have like if they've just got to. Quickly, they've just got to, I don't know, that's why.
Well, it is one of those things I didn't realise going in, because I'd never had surgery, as I said before, but like, you have to get really comfortable very quick with people touching and seeing and like, because it was a weird world. In their world, your body's just your body, and it's like, I cut it open, I do what I have to do. In my world, I was quite like private about my body, and like having people touch me in certain areas, or found it quite awkward.
And you kind of forget too, like, this is their job. They're not sitting there going, here, boobies, here, penis. Like, but we're kind of like, oh my God, they're looking at me like, that's my boob.
Yeah.
That's like, you know what I mean? Like, it's kind of, for us being insecure and overweight people, standing there in like, 90% of the time, those hospital gowns don't fit us anyway, so you're already embarrassed about that, and then next minute they're like, okay, so I'm just going to shave your private bits, and you're like, okay, what is happening?
Sure. And they're like just flopping things aside, getting in there. They only did my stomach down to like just above my like groin region. They didn't go down, but wearing the paper undies, everything was on display when they're shaving that, because you're laying down and they pull it up, and you kind of, the paper undies aren't hiding much. They get out of the way pretty fast. And then obviously we go and lay down in like a little bed before you go into the anesthesia room. And I just laid there absolutely out of my mind with nerves, like texting, doing Snapchat. That was my thing. I wasn't doing Instagram, but I was on Snapchat and kind of trying to share my process and just being like, oh my God, I'm freaking out. Were you nervous? Like at that stage?
Not at that stage, like, because they wheeled me into the like little room that's essentially adjoined to the operating theatre. I started getting a bit nervous when they were putting the cannula in, because again, I don't like anesthetics. That was the biggest thing that I didn't like. But my anaesthetist...
Because your cannula is the one that gives you fluids, isn't it?
Yeah, so the one in your arm, the one that they kind of administer everything through, essentially. And I started getting nervous then, but my anaesthetist was really lovely, and we had a really good chat. We ended up talking about Europe, and the surgeon ended up coming in and being like, okay, guys, well, if you're finished having a little chat now, like, I've got a job to do. And then when I saw my surgeon, he put me at ease, but that's when I started kind of being like, okay... This is real. We're going in there now. Yeah. Like,
well, I remember in the anesthesia room when I got rolled in, because they had trouble finding my veins. They had to do it with like ultrasound to like locate and put the cannula in properly. So that was already kind of like, oh, I'm freaking out, and this is going on, and nothing was smooth. And then we're like laying there in this little really well lit room, and the anesthesia person, anesthesiologist, that's a really big word for me, came in.
Yep.
Is it?
It's an anaesthetist.
Oh, okay. I don't know what I just said. But he comes out and just says, I'm the person that keeps you alive, and like, really nice people, but like, it's a lot. Yeah. It's a lot to process. And then you get wheeled into the room, and the surgeons are there. Like, I don't know, in yours case, it sounds like the same, but they're just kind of like joking around, and like, it's nothing for them.
They're just like, putting scalpels here, like, gloving up. They're just like, it's just like, working at Coles or whatever. They're just going about their day.
Just scanning your items. Yeah. Here's the next item. But yeah, and then you like lay there, and I remember people telling me when you go under, because I'd never been under, it was like you go 3, 2, 1. Like, I'd never done drugs in my life, and I still haven't never done drugs in my life. And I don't even think I got past 3. Like, I don't even remember counting down. It was just like 3, and I was gone.
I remember them putting like this like spiky thing. Did you get a spiky headband? So apparently the anaesthetist that I have, so obviously they kind of like put all your cocktail together for your drugs and all that sort of stuff. And then they put all your ECG and all that sort of stuff to monitor your heart. And then he put on this like pink spiky headband thing across my forehead. And I was like, oh, he goes, oh, this is going to feel a bit tingly. Apparently, and I asked him about it because I was still awake at this stage. Apparently they read your brain waves to make sure that you're in a constant state of sleep.
Oh,
and I was
wow.
like, oh, that was really cool.
I probably got one of those. But there's so much going on. It's overwhelming. I'm trying to reflect back on it, and I'm like, I think it was just, I just wanted to get it done, get through it. And, how did you come out of the whole surgery? Was it pretty smooth?
It wasn't
did you
too
have
bad.
Pain?
I didn't have too much pain. I know that when I woke up in recovery, I was one of the people that got super hot and sweaty, and I felt really nauseous. Not necessarily nauseous because of the drugs, but it was just kind of like I woke up and I was super clammy. I felt like I was going to pass out. And apparently I found out later it has something to do with how close and how tight they cut the stomach line.
Yeah, at the top there's like your
thermostat or something.
Yeah.
Apparently, I don't know. I know nothing about the biology of the stomach.
Well, I kind of watched it last week because I went to a seminar with my surgeon and he was showing like they have a lot of respect for at the top of like near the esophagus. There's a part that they really got to be careful around, but they've got to get really tight to it in order, otherwise it creates like a little pouch at the top, and that's sometimes where like a lot of issues can come around. They definitely don't want to bleed up there because apparently that like just goes crazy bleeding if you nick it.
Wow.
So they have a lot of respect for the top.
Well, apparently I would like it was cut quite close to that, and that just threw off my heating system, I guess, to the point that they had to get like 5 ice packs, they had to get 2 fans, and just like because I was sweating so much.
Yeah.
But then after that, I was fine. Like once I kind of like, I guess it was almost a little bit of shock too, maybe.
A little bit of maybe panic.
And I kind of, because I've talked to people quite often about, you know, waking up from surgery and that sort of thing. I used to always say that there's two sorts of people. Either somebody who gets super nauseous after surgery and you're relying on that, on Dancertron to make sure that you're not vomiting, or you're the people that get a lot of pain. And I don't know.
I think I was both.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, then you got the people that just have both.
Super
and
complicated.
It sucks. But like, so I was just super nauseous.
Oh, okay. Like, I was nauseous. I remember just like laying there being like I wanted to vomit. That was the nauseous feeling. Yeah. Was yours similar? Okay. And the other thing too, guys, I just quickly want to touch on, obviously Alita and I both had the sleeve.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming the bypass is very similar, but again, this is from a sleeve perspective. Yeah. So I just obviously wanted to mention that because when we're talking about cutting close to the top of the esophagus and stuff like that, you're kind of like, wait, the bypass doesn't do that. So obviously it may be a little bit different depending on what surgery you had. But I remember when I woke up out of surgery, because when I came to after the surgery, my surgeon came in and told me later that apparently, and I remember waking up and I didn't know if I dreamt it or it actually happened. But when I woke up, all I wanted to do, I kind of freaked out and I wanted to just stand up, and it took like 4 of them to like hold me down, because they're like, obviously you can't get up. But I was like, no, it was like my fight or flight kind of instinct kicking in. And then I woke up in the recovery room because obviously they must have hit me in the head or something. And I remember coming to in the recovery room and
put more like
they're like
back into you, back to sleep.
You go back to sleep now. And I woke up and like no word of a lie, I was naked. Like, because obviously I must have gotten a bit of a show, and like my pee was out, and like I'm just laying in this ward with nurses walking by, and and this is what I mean. Like you got to get very comfortable with being on display, which was really weird for me. I just felt so awkward about it. But yeah, I came to and I had the shoulder pain, like gas pain. And just so uncomfortable, and then that with like feeling like I wanted to vomit, but I couldn't vomit, and they're like, you got to stop because you can't keep doing that, and they're like giving me drugs, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm so uncomfortable. And obviously at that point, the big thing I always say to people is get up and walk when you can, but when you're in recovery, you can't get up and walk. They're going to just allow you to do that. But then I got into the room after recovery,
like your actual room.
And then I think it was later in the night, so I kind of had a bit of sleep, but then I was still uncomfortable, so I got up and just started walking, and that made such a difference to the gas pain.
Yeah, it does. And I will also give everybody a tip, because I just wanted, because I was such a sweaty Betty and felt so gross, I went and had a nice warm hot shower in the hospital, and you
can do that with your stitch. Oh, okay. I was going to say probably not recommended then.
Well, no, they tell you can have a shower, it's fine, but I closed the door in my bathroom, had a real hot shower, and the steam and the heat made my blood pressure, which was already low, drop. And
then you dropped.
I dropped as well. And it was only I was so lucky that as I was falling, I was actually able to hit like the emergency button to call the nurses. And they were like, and I was like, what happened? And they're like, oh no, like we get this a lot. People just don't realize that hot showers makes your blood pressure drop, and you've already got really low blood pressure. So have a shower.
And you're already pretty lightheaded as it is.
Yeah, so have a shower, all good. Make yourself all comfortable. And
maybe keep
good.
It a bit cooler.
Keep the door open, or don't have a really hot shower.
Yeah. And with the stuff you took to hospital, was there like anything out of the ordinary? Obviously, you took socks and jocks, but did you take anything like...
I feel like this would be an interesting question between the two of us, because we male versus female, two completely different.
What are you trying to say?
You didn't take lip gloss in there? No.
Well, a matter of fact, I did.
I took my own pillow, because for me that was massive. Like I hate sleeping on the scratchy like hospital plastic pillows. So I took my own pillow.
Clearly a regular visit at the hospital. That was not in my mind at all. I'm like, I'm sure it'll be fine. It's like a really nice resort, right?
Yeah, no. So I took a pillow, the baggiest clothes that I possibly owned, just because I didn't want to have any.
Do you
tight
take
clothing.
any like scales or like food items?
No.
No, because I did. I took like little like measuring cups because my dietitian told me to take them to kind of measure things out when the meals came out, because obviously when you're in the hospital, they're not always catering down to like those little details in this after surgery, like for bariatric surgery.
Well,
Like,
I was so nauseous that I couldn't get anything in when I was in
but you
hospital.
didn't take any like measuring cups or plate or
No.
anything like that.
No, but I know that the hospital, I know now, I didn't know back then, but the hospital that I was in, they gave like a little red medicine cups, which was 30 mils. And we, like, if you're in the hospital, ask the nurses, and if you see them, ask the nurses if you can take a few of them home with you. Because they're like, the little red, like, drinking cups. They're like them.
30 mils.
But they're tiny. They're actually quite cute. They're like the cups that you take
Bariatric
to parties.
cups.
They're like, but yeah, they had them in the hospital that I was at. And so if you were able to drink anything, they would bring them around with you too, so you could kind of measure into them.
Yeah. And
But the smell of the broth, they brought the chicken broth into my room, and I had to tell them to take it out because it was just making me gag. Like, it was disgusting.
how did you find like the food in general, eating and drinking? It wasn't really eating because everything's liquid.
The only thing that I survived on in hospital was chipped ice. That was the only thing I could stomach.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember one thing really didn't agree with me was sustagen.
Yeah,
They
okay.
gave you like this sustagen, and there was a custard, and in my head I'm like, oh, I'm gonna love this because it's sweet and da-da-da-da. It sat so bad.
Yeah.
Like, it made me feel so sick. So in future, I wouldn't recommend having that.
So I lived off, and I used to tell this to everybody who used to come through the clinic, the flavoured protein waters, you can get the sample sachets
Oh,
in it.
yeah.
I took one of them into hospital with me, and I'd get up and walk to the chipped ice machine like all the time, because that was me getting out of bed and walking around the hospital ward. But it was almost like making a slushy for yourself, because it was like a shaved ice, and then I'd tip a bit of the flavoured protein water into it, and I'd have a spoon, and I'd suck on the ice and the spoon and the protein water. That was the only thing that I could stomach. Anything else, I would be vomiting.
Yeah. And anything else in hospital happen that you want to touch on, or like, your surgeon comes in and visits, and
I think I had my surgeon came in and visited every day. The dietitian came
every day.
in. Yeah.
I got one visit. I was only there for 2 days. How many days were you in hospital for?
2 nights.
Oh, okay.
3 days.
So you finished twice.
The dietitian came and saw us. I had an exercise physio come and see us as well.
Oh my god. You had so many visitors.
Teaching us how to get in and out of bed properly, so that we didn't like
I've only done it like every day for the last
no, but
30
it was really
years.
hard. I couldn't use my my abs.
Oh, okay.
Because I had abs.
Yeah.
Rock hard abs.
rock hard abs.
But they just kind of like taught us how to like roll onto our side and get up, so that you weren't putting pressure onto your stomach.
Yeah. Well, that was the other thing, trying to sleep, obviously, on my back in hospital. I end up creeping onto my side and just sleeping kind of like that, because I'm a side sleeper. But obviously, because you got your incisions, 4. How many do you have?
5.
I can't even see the scars anymore. But
4 across your belly and 1 a little bit higher
yeah,
up.
and the one underneath the belly button was the worst. That was kind of like, they actually put stitches in that one because it was obviously the bigger one. The other ones they didn't, which I thought was...
My biggest one was, so I was looking at you blankly because I was trying to think about which one was, my bigger one was on the right hand side.
Oh, okay.
And that's where they obviously pull your stomach out through there.
Glamorous.
Yeah, it's
I know.
delightful.
I watched the surgery last week in that seminar, and it was like, oh my god, like he's just going, oh, that's the da-da-da-da-da. And I'm like, it just all looks like weird meat.
Red meat,
I'm
yeah.
like, and he's like, and we just leave this over here, and then we put, and I'm like, that's my organs, buddy.
A lot of people ask what to take in the hospital bag. I would honestly say, like, obviously a long charging cable for your phone, so that you've always got that on.
Priorities.
Eye mask, because as in like to help you sleep, because there's a lot of
I'd probably say earplugs.
Yeah, earplugs and eye masks, because there's a lot of beeping, there's a lot of flashing, there's a lot of lights, there's a lot of noise. So eye masks, earplugs, lip balm, because you're dehydrated as well, because you're not getting all your fluids in. But the hospitals are always air conditioned, so I hate having dry lips, so I always had lip balm. And the other thing that I found that works really well for gas pain is peppermint tea. So if you're
That's so strange.
so weird. But if you're experiencing really bad gas pain, ask the nurses for some peppermint tea or take some peppermint tea in your little
Such
hospital
a
bag.
fancy thing. Excuse me, nurse. Can I please get some peppermint tea, please?
Yeah, well, they offered it to me when I was there, and it actually really helped. So.
Yeah. And then obviously you got discharged from hospital. You went home. Where were you at that stage? Were you living with your mum?
I was living with my parents. My partner and I were trying to save money, and we were living with my parents at that stage because we just thought it would be easier after hospital as well. I prepared all of my pureed foods. Like, I know that I was on liquids first, but I prepared all my pureed foods before I went into hospital because I didn't know if I was going to...
Super organised.
I would not recommend it.
No. Well, I was going to say I literally threw mine out about a year ago because I also prepared and did it in like an ice tray. Never used them because I tried one and it was terrible.
My dogs had a really good diet. Like, if you want to prepare them, like, make the meals, because I know we're jumping forward to puree rather than liquid, but I made apricot chicken, savoury mince, and beef stroganoff.
Yeah.
And it all smelt and looked amazing at the time of cooking it, but then you chuck it in a food processor and you freeze it and you're pulling out like brown poo from the freezer. So like, if you want to, like, my tip to people who, if you want to be super organised, because you might be time poor or you have kids or whatever, make the meals but freeze them as the actual meal and only puree them once you've heated them up and are ready to eat them.
We'll touch on the liquid stage and we'll go to puree because puree stage is probably the one that people need the most amount of tips for, and it's one part of my process I wish I got more tips for because I found it really tough. But like that first week out from surgery, with the liquids, because you did 2 weeks of liquids, 2 weeks of puree, 2 weeks of soft.
No, so mine was 1 week of liquid, 3 weeks of puree, 2 weeks of soft.
Oh wow. Yeah, I think mine was 2, 2 and 2, I think. Again, I think it was. But obviously that first week, mine was a little bit different, obviously, because I was going through like a weird patch where I went home to an empty house and I was going through a separation. So obviously my kind of early stages are a little bit different to a lot because I was depressed as hell and all sorts of stuff. But, I went home and I guess liquids I lived off are like protein waters and like soups. Like soups were literally my go-to, and a bit of high protein custard.
I don't like custard anyway. But the thing that wasn't around when we had surgery, which it is now, there's a lot more like drinking yogurts. So I know the only yogurt that was available in drinking form when we were around
was Sustagen?
No, it was Yakult. You know those little tiny Yakult probiotic yogurts?
Oh no, I haven't heard of them.
Oh,
is that not the Yope?
Yeah.
I don't think they're called What are
Yakults.
Oh, I don't know what they're called. I'm pretty sure they're not.
They've got the little red lid and they're like a little tiny bottle.
I'll have to look into that. Yeah, but I don't think that's what
I'm going to buy some for you next time I'm at the supermarket because I don't like the taste of them. You'll probably love the taste because we've got really opposite taste buds. But
isn't that YoPro?
No.
Oh, no, it's not YoPro.
YoPro is the one. So anyway, leading into that, YoPro now do a drinking yogurt that is actually like, because they had drinking protein drinks that have like massive, like 30 grams of protein on the front of it. But then you look at it and it's like also got 45 grams of sugar. And like, that's not ideal. But they do actually have now a YoPro and Siggy's, I think it is. They do a drinking yogurt that is actually...
So have yogurt and Siggy's.
Yeah.
Heard it here first. That's now your liquid stage.
But I've got a post here and because I documented everything.
Yeah.
I'm 4 days post-op, second day at home after surgery, and I was like, send help. I'm so sick of drinking Optifast shakes, protein water, and liquid Panadol.
Yeah, that's right. Optifast. Yeah. That was the thing too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now these days you have like Formulite and stuff, which the Optifast I found really hard. I had to water them down because they're very sugary,
sweet,
like very sweet. Where that's the new products, obviously Formulite and stuff, they're not as sweet, a lot better. So you can obviously look at incorporating that into your liquid as well.
I'm just having a read through the comments here, and a lot of people are saying blue Powerade. They lived off blue Powerade for some reason. They like the blue. A lot of people said lemonade icy poles. I also lived on sucking on Hydrolite icy poles
I'm
as well.
glad you said icy poles. Whatever gets you through those early stages, I guess. And then obviously, I wish I could scroll back through mine, but I literally just had a cup of soup. So, not very informative with mine. But then we went on to puree, which I found devil puree was the worst. Can I just say, guys, if you think going to Chemist Warehouse and buying baby food, the protein baby food with like chicken and stuff is a good idea, it's not. It's really not. They are disgusting. Like the apple ones and stuff, which aren't super good for you, they taste okay. but the high protein. Have you ever had that? No. Oh my god.
Yeah, but this is okay. So this is the difference between Shannon and Lita.
Yeah.
Lita likes to cook.
Yeah.
Shannon doesn't.
No.
Shannon went and bought baby food.
Yeah.
Lita cooked.
That's it. It's like the fast food version
Yeah.
of puree. It's
Yeah.
like I'm gonna go to Chemist Warehouse and drive through and grab myself some baby food on the way home.
So I had soups. Like I made myself some broths and some like chicken soups and some pumpkin soup and just added like protein into the pumpkin soup, which I know is still liquid, but you could make it slightly thicker.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. I also lived off Ricotta Bake. That was one of my favorite things. It was kind of like you get ricotta and scramble some, like mix some eggs through it, and then put it in a dish with some marinara sauce on top of it, and then melt some cheese over the top. So it was almost like a lasagna, but it was just pure cheese and egg. Really.
Oh my god, you like became like little gourmet chef.
Yeah, I was. I loved it. It was great, but
no, I didn't.
I didn't mind. And then I would also do things like cottage cheese, and then I'd mash avocado through it. So that again was pureed. The best meal I had though was roast.
Roast. Oh, what, did you puree that up?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So Mum made. I got really angry at Mum one day because 3 weeks into puree, and I was like, "How dare you cook a roast for everybody else in the house?" Like I was getting super like hangry and like
but this is something I remember you told me, and it's actually really smart. You took each ingredient and pureed it by itself.
Individually.
Because that was where I went wrong. I went, I'm going to have pureed, like if I had a pureed roast, for example, I would throw all the ingredients in one thing and then blend it up and then be like, why does this taste terrible?
Yeah, so because Mum did like sweet potato, pumpkin, normal potatoes, broccoli, carrot, all that sort of thing. And obviously like lamb or pork or whatever it was. So I grabbed a little bit of the, a little bit of the pork mince, and I didn't put it in a blender because it's really hard to puree such tiny little portions.
Yeah.
I went to Kmart and I got one of those like little choppy things, you see me use it all the time.
Yeah.
The one that's like, it's got the blade and you pull it and it like chops things up really quickly.
Yeah.
So I put some meat and some gravy in that, and that's what I used to puree my meat. And then I just mushed up some pumpkin and some carrot and some peas, I think it was.
That would actually be really good because I think I found with pureeing I had a Ninja Bullet, and that's what I was using. Almost makes it foamy because it goes at such a high thing. It almost makes it like lose the taste, I guess. And like doing it with that little hand press one, it's like it's not
or
going
a bar
as such.
mix or something.
Yeah.
And the thing is as well, look, and I it's different because obviously every surgeon has a different like protocol to follow, but because I did 3 weeks of puree, it was kind of like the first 2 weeks had to be sort of like, slopping off a spoon. It had to be quite sort of thick puree, like thick liquid, so to speak. But by the time it was on your third week, it could almost be a mash rather than...
Well, that's what I was going to say, because I did 2 weeks of liquid and then 2 weeks of puree, but I probably did a week and a half of puree because I thought in my head, I'll go to soft, because at the end of the day, if I just chew my soft a lot, it kind of is puree.
Yeah.
And I guess it would have been okay, but I did do a week and a half, and because I didn't really prepare and have much idea of good ideas for puree, it dragged on a lot. So like being prepared, and I guess, listening to certain things that maybe people like Aliesha and stuff have, these little bits of information of like, blending or pureeing up little elements by themselves, making them fresh rather than frozen. As good as it sounds like, because you don't really want to cook, you are quite mobile in that stage. So you can probably make up some little meals on the day and, be a little bit more proactive.
You are feeling slightly more human. Like you can like walk around and do things, and you do feel a little bit more human. I also lived on baked beans. So I pureed baked beans and melted some cheese into my baked beans and that sort of thing too. Like, so you can still eat food, like delicious food. It wasn't like you just have to sit there, and everyone thinks mashed potato. Mashed potato's got nothing in it. Like, don't eat mash. Eat mash, but it's
add some protein elements, because that was the thing. Like I was pretty, as much as I did some things in the first 6 months, like skipping meals and using my tool to its full like capabilities, which I wouldn't recommend doing. I think like giving your body nutrients and stuff is very important that first 6 months. As much as you don't want to eat, make sure you do. Like make sure you schedule it out, because I remember I forgot a few days to eat. Because you can do that. But obviously your body needs to be fueled, and it'll stop you from getting stalls, and your body will continue to kind of get the nutrition and not lose all its muscle and all that kind of stuff. So, obviously protein early on was always the focus and should be at the forefront. And they always say, focus on your protein before anything else. So whatever's on your plate, go protein first. So I was doing a lot of protein waters around that as well. I was trying to obviously have water, but a lot of the water I had, because I couldn't consume a lot, had protein water in it, like the what are they called? The ones that we had, the little packet ones that you talked about before.
Feel good protein.
Yeah, so I had a lot of those packets, and I was adding that to kind of the water. You know, it wasn't ideal. It didn't taste delicious like cordial or something, but it had that protein element. I think these days there's a lot more products out.
The feel good ones are actually really delicious now. The formula's changed,
Okay.
and it's like back in the day. I think it was protein.
No, I think it was Bodhi's. I think
that had the real, and that's still really good, but it has the protein taste. So the feel good protein now, it doesn't have that protein taste to it.
Yeah, because I remember the Bodhi's one. It was okay, but it was like definitely had like that protein like very strong protein taste, and it was a little bit more chemically taste. Yeah.
And a top tip for people who struggle and just want to drink water, apparently Fiji water, it's the best. It sits well in your stomach. And
it's the purest of all the purest waters.
Do you remember when we watched that Zac Efron TV show and he did the water tasting thing? So it's something to do with the minerals and the preservatives.
The
and blah, blah, blah. Yeah,
whatever.
so apparently the Fiji one is
the best water,
one.
guys.
Yeah.
Rate it.
But there are heaps of recipe books out there. So I know that a lot of people, bariatric surgery, we're very not into like healthy food and cooking and all those sorts of things. But there's so many books out there. The nutrition for weight loss surgery, the complete guide for nutrition after weight loss surgery.
I'm excited because I'm actually getting their books to because I'm in that stage of my process now when I want to educate myself and become better at cooking and understand cooking better, because I've always been a very lazy cook, and I'm excited. I'm actually getting their books, and I'm going to kind of look into making some recipes and understanding nutrition and meals and nourishing myself a little bit.
So if you're in the start, like in the early stages, and you're freaking out about what to eat in like liquid and puree stage, get your hands on their book, because there's so many options. There's so many. You don't have to just live off fruit smoothies or you know what I mean. Like there's heaps out there, and you can be creative with the food. Yeah,
we might even reach out to them and see if we can get a code for the Bari family and stuff as well. So we'll do that as well, because I think it's really important to kind of not limit yourself, because I think that's something I did, and I kind of had a bit of food guilt of not really understanding food enough to enjoy puree stage and liquid stage, because I was so limited in what I knew and what I thought I should have, and I was just like, protein, steak, I can't have that. Protein, eggs. And that was the thing. I craved eggs so bad during puree that's kind of when I went to soft food, I started having eggs.
Scrambled eggs or?
Yeah, scrambled eggs. And I overdid it with eggs to the point, and that was where I was going to touch on next, because obviously we go to soft food. I had like curried eggs and stuff like that, and I was eating too fast. And that was, unfortunately, I vomited a lot because of that. Because one tip I would give to people in that soft food stage is conscious eating. Because like my dietitian said it to me and I didn't listen. Again, a lot of things that I was like, yeah, I understand. And then I was like, oh, that's why they told me that. Was I used to eat and be watching TV. And then you'd be like, it all hit at once. And you'd be like, oh no, I made a terrible mistake off the toilet, because I reckon I was 6 or 7 times easy.
Yeah, see, I never vomited from overeating.
Yeah. Were you consciously eating though, or were you like...
I guess as well though, because I was preparing my meals, so it took me a lot longer. Like, during puree stage especially, it was like I would have a hard-boiled egg and I'd put it in my little choppy thing, and I'd add some mayonnaise or some cottage cheese into it and a tiny bit of curry powder. So it was almost like, your egg and lettuce sandwiches, but without the sandwich and the lettuce. But because I was taking so long to prepare the meal, I would then sit down and I would legit have like 1 teaspoon, and I'd be like, all that effort for like nothing. So I guess I probably was mindfully eating because I was involved in the preparation of the food.
Yeah, well, me being me, is me, I would have been grabbing like eggs, curry powder, boof, gum, and like
put
tuna.
Put it all in my mouth.
Put it all in my mouth.
I'll puree it in my mouth.
That's it. I think I'm really hungry, but I'm really not. But I'm just going to stuff it all in and then just get on with my day.
Controversial question.
Oh.
When did you start eating Cruskets?
Oh, that would have been... I talked to a friend down in Caboolture, and she introduced me to Cruskets, because before that I wasn't doing Cruskets, and I started doing I was doing like those little crackers.
Like the corn thins or something, or?
No, like the actual, like the cheap 99-cent square, and I was putting stuff... Sayos. Yeah, I was putting things on them, but Cruskets, I've heard information that maybe they're not the best thing to be incorporating in, but I back then was using them a lot.
Well, so I'm looking at my posts here, and I used to always be like, I didn't have Cruskets until I was on full stage. No. Week 2, I started to have Cruskets.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't have touched it during those stages. Because
a lot of people go, because they're pretty much air, as soon as they have liquid or something on them, they turn super soggy. But I've since found out that Cruskets are a big no-no until you're on full food.
I would have thought so because they can be quite sharp.
Yes, and everyone's like, no, but as soon as you put them in your mouth, they turn into puree anyway. Just guys, stay away from Cruskets until you're allowed to eat full food. Like,
yeah, no, I was very safe.
It's like there's legit a picture on my Instagram of me.
Incriminating evidence.
On top of it, it's got like bruschetta, so I put avocado and tomato.
Look at your food. And that was in 2 weeks out.
Yeah,
you've got like some good stuff there.
Yeah.
I'll have to share that. Send that to me.
Yeah, okay.
Because I was very basic, but you've got like let's say potato bakes and all sorts of.
Well, that was my ricotta bake. Yeah.
Yeah.
And some soups and when did you start exercising?
Exercising, I looked back in my feed and I was climbing mountains. Like my thing was climbing Mount Coolum.
Yep.
I started doing that a lot, quite frequently. But I think 6 months out, I started going to the gym. Probably 5-6 months out. So it was later on, and I think it was probably 8 months that we discovered parkrun. So we won't go into that. But like for me, in the first 6 months, I started out by walking a lot. Mount Coolum was my go-to, and then 5 months out, I started at the gym.
Yeah.
Yourself?
Well, looking at my post.
Yeah, it would be so good to have this little journal. Oh, look, I got joggers.
On the 21st of April, 2018.
Oh, so you were like 2 weeks out.
Yeah, so I said this morning was my first time I have worked out since pre-op. Almost three weeks post-op. I did a 30-minute walk and 3 times 1 minute of arm circles with 1.5 kilo weights.
Wow. Was that true, or did you just literally find your joggers and put that? You being a little graphic designer, I just feel like maybe you staged that photo.
No, because then then I actually do have, there's before and after photos of me with my little boxing crew that you...
Oh, yeah.
And that was... How far down was that? 7.5 weeks post-op.
Oh, because you were straight into it.
Yeah.
How long before you went back to work?
2 weeks.
Yeah, I was.
But I had an office job.
Yeah, I was 4 weeks because I have quite a manually labor intensive job. So I think it was 4 weeks I had to have off before I could get back to work.
Fun fact though, when I went back to my little group fitness class, I didn't tell them what surgery I'd had. I told them that I had an operation on my ovaries.
Oh, close.
Which is why I couldn't do
They did shave your vagina, so
Which is why I couldn't do pelvic floor, I couldn't do sit-ups, I couldn't do push-ups, I couldn't do any of that sort of stuff. And so I was kind of like, how could I told my personal trainer, I told the group fitness trainer, but I didn't tell any of the group. And then bloody a few months later, Shannon comes to our little
Mr.
group.
Open and honest over here.
Shannon's like, oh yeah, no, I had my stomach cut out.
Yeah. I've lost like 60 kilos because I chopped my stomach out. Oh, Lita's lost that. Oh yeah, she did it with healthy eating and exercise. Yeah.
Why did our voices turn weird just then? Do you, this is going to be hard because you didn't journal everything, but how do you know roughly how much weight you were losing in the early stages? How much roughly you would be losing a week?
I think it would have been I ended up losing 60 in the first year. So what's that work out to be? Probably 10 a month. No, it's less than that. It's 5 a month. I think it was only I was only losing 4 or 5 kilos a week or something like that. In the early stages,
4 or 5 kilos a week.
I think in the early stages it was 4 or 5, and then it got back to 2 or 1. And I remember having stalls that I was kind of getting my head about, but it was making it worse because you stall and then you stop eating, but then that's why your body's stalling. Because I talked to my surgeon about it, and he said it's kind of because obviously you're consuming so little, your body starts freaking out during that 6 months because it kind of goes, oh, I may not get any food. So your body automatically starts storing everything you put in. So the worst thing you can do is stop eating because you're almost emphasizing on what your body's already going through, because it will adjust. It eventually adjusts to being okay, this is my new norm. Yeah. And it starts burning again, but it goes through a patch of kind of, I'm just going to hold everything because I feel like, are we starving? Are we in the desert? What's going on? No, we had bariatric surgery.
When am I going to get food again?
Yeah.
Hold everything.
Hold shutdown stations.
Well, this is a really good thing. I don't know how to word that just then, because everybody compares themselves to other people, right? And so you're that's why I just sounded shocked that you were saying that you were losing 4 or 5 kilos a week. I was losing 700 grams a week.
Yeah, I think it was early on, it was a lot, but I was also going through a divorce and having a little bit of a mental shutdown. So I was walking and trying to deal with my emotions through exercise. And then I was I'm going to show her, I'm going to not eat and lose all this weight. And so that's what I mean. My early stages, I was losing big numbers and everyone was oh my God, you're doing amazing. Not realizing I was actually probably doing more harm than good because I was skipping meals. I was over exercising. So I was under fueling, over exercising, which was on the scales, really great. But in reality,
were you
probably
weekly
not.
weighing or daily weighing?
Oh, daily.
Daily. Okay.
Back then,
I was weekly weighing because I had my surgery on a Tuesday. I'd weigh myself every Tuesday. Week 2, 0 kilos lost.
Oh, wow.
Like, so I didn't lose anything at all
Yeah.
in week 2 after surgery.
Yeah.
Which I'm not going to read the post, but I'm pretty sure it was a pretty rough blow to be like not see the scales go down.
And it is. It's very much a mental thing, and I think that's the thing. It's so hard to say to people like, don't focus on the scales, because that's kind of why we do it in the first place. But it's also just, you trust the process is like something people say regularly, but it's like, it's one of those things. Someone says trust the process, you're like, easy for you to say, but it's like, honestly, just trust that if you're doing the right things and sticking to the program that your dietitian is setting you, the results will happen. You know,
well, I'd lost 11.9 kilos by that stage, but in week 2 I hadn't lost anything.
Yeah.
So,
but it'll keep happening. But your body goes through a process of, obviously, you got to understand you just had major surgery and it's adjusting to the new norm.
But
so
by week 9 I'd lost 20 kilos. So
that's good. What did you use in the first 6 months, you reckon?
I can tell you.
Let me scroll about 4 posts up.
By 7 months, because I did a post about it and I was reading it before we jumped on to do this episode. By 7 months, I'd hit my goal of getting down to 85 kilos, and that was 41 kilos lost.
Okay.
In the first 7 months.
Yeah, I think I read one before, and I think in August, which is like April, May, June, July, August, so 5-6 months, I was about 50 down. So, you know, I assume I must have lost more than that then in the first year. I have to go back through my post, through my journal. I think I started journaling at about 8 months, 6, 7, 8 months. So the next one we talk about the 6 to 12 months.
You'll be all over it.
I have so much information to share.
So week 18, I was 29 kilos down. So yeah, mine came off quite quickly, I guess, in the grand scheme of things. But I got to my goal weight within the first 7 months.
And were you taking your multivitamins?
Yeah, well, that was another thing, because I was going to say, when did you start taking your multis?
Well, I took it before surgery. I was taking chewables before surgery because I'm like, it can't hurt to have extra, you know, and I religiously took BN Multi as my multivitamin. I still do to date, just FYI.
I don't.
You don't take your multis. You reckon you get enough through your food these days?
Well, I'm just really bad at remembering to take tablets. But the multis don't sit well with me.
Yeah, apparently that's the high iron, which is apparently they're reworking the multivitamin to lessen the iron. Because that was what was making people sick.
Because I would legit have to. I personally didn't like the taste of the chewable ones. For me, it was. I don't like the taste of vitamin C, like those vitamin C chewable tablets either, and they taste like them to me.
Yeah, I don't mind. I've taken vitamin C my whole life because I have cold sores. So
okay. Yeah. So when I was taking the chewable ones, I would legit have to have like food, like have 1 or 2 mouthfuls of food, have my multivitamin, and then have 1 or 2 mouthfuls of food. So it was almost like sandwiching the multi between food. Yeah. So that I had actual food in my stomach. Otherwise, I would be like, I remember in the early stages, because I was being quite good with taking my multi, I would be driving to work and I'd have to pull over on the side of the motorway because I would be like, feel like I'd get the hot sweats and I'd be like gagging on the side of the motorway because I thought I was going to vomit. Like that's how badly they make me feel.
Yeah. Well, so, I've never had an issue, and I guess some people do. But
well, I take Elevit now because obvious reasons. We're trying to fall pregnant, and they do say after. So you're meant to stay on your bariatric multivitamins for at least the first year until you get the all clear from your bariatric team that your bloods are stabilised. And then after the first year, you are allowed to move on to taking normal.
And did you take calcium?
I didn't. Because I didn't like the taste of the calcium either.
Yeah. Well, I alternated. So I went from the ones from Chemist Warehouse. There was like these calcium white ones and then like mint ones. To then I went and did the BN ones. And now I do
we both do the
Bariatrics. Because at the end of the day, I know they're probably, you need to have more of them because the calcium may not.
Well, no, that's the thing. So the BN Multi, not the BN Multi, the BN Cow, the Ovaltine chocolate tasting ones. Yeah. We're meant to take 4 of them a day.
Oh, wow.
To get the correct dose.
And what about the Bariatric ones?
2 a day.
And they taste like lollies.
Yeah.
They're delicious. So I like the BM Multis. They're my go-to, and I have always religiously used them. And guys, if you want to sit out there and be like, I never take my Multis, do you also pay car insurance? Because I always say to people, it's like when people sit there and they brag about not having their BN or their multivitamins, whatever they are. Like even if it is having like one that isn't a bariatric multi, it's better than, not having one at all. It's like, for me, I'm like, wouldn't you rather have it and be over, your vitamin levels and stuff than not have it at all? Because it's like car insurance. You pay it and you don't need it. But then if you need it, it's too late if you don't have it. For me, I'm like, have your multivitamin because at the end of the day, it's a precautionary thing to not have issues down the track.
Because
You'd rather not
you
risk
told me a
it.
story once from your surgeon that kind of like scared me, and the only reason why I don't take it is because I just suck at remembering to take tablets. Like it's who I am as a person.
Yeah, but
So
your blood work's good these days too,
Yeah.
so that's something to scale it off.
Yes, but I also have my calcium chews in my office so that when I'm like sitting there thinking, oh, like I see it, so I eat them, and because they taste like lollies, I don't. Like, I actually remember to take them. It's a lot better.
See, that's why I have mine on my coffee machine out there. So when I make
Shan
coffee,
and I have got them like scattered around the house. Shannon likes the chocolate flavored one, so he has his at the coffee machine. Whereas I like I think they're pineapple and mango, and I have them in my office so that I'm sitting at work and I'll just like munch on some like little. They taste like Starburst.
Yeah,
they're delicious.
I know, probably not a good thing, but at the end of the day, whatever gets it in, and they're good. Bariatric ones, the BN multis I still have.
I'm waiting for Bariatric to bring out a multivitamin that tastes just as delicious.
They actually used to do one. It didn't do very well, so they took it off the market.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. But yeah, guys, multivitamins, make sure you do it because I know it's a very controversial topic for some people, and they're like,
tell us the story.
Yeah. Oh, the story. Literally, my surgeon told this again last week at the conference, and I said, you need to update that because you told me that 4 years ago, and he still says 2 years ago he had someone. But he had someone who didn't do their vitamins, and they ended up with a bone density disorder where they ended up paralyzed because their spine actually fractured because their density of their bones had actually become so depleted that they just couldn't support their structure anymore. That story, I was like, okay, I'm taking my multis.
I think that's the thing to remember too, guys, is that yes, you might feel like you've got all the energy, you might feel fine, but like unless you're getting regular blood work done like every year and you're making sure that your levels are current, like you hear of people who have had bariatric surgery and then when they get to their like 40s, they fall over and, a normal person would sprain their wrist, but they've actually like shattered their wrist just because they've got no
bone density. Which is because at the end of the day, doing your like blood works is so important because everyone goes, oh, but I'm eating healthier than I used to, so I'll be getting the thing. The whole thing is you're not eating as big a portion. So like prior to surgery, you might have been eating crap, but you're eating enough of it that it was getting the bare minimum to kind of make sure you didn't have any issues. But now, because obviously bariatric surgery, especially with, your bypass, it's bypassing part of your small intestine that takes a lot of the nutrition. You need to be having that extra source to make sure you're getting the bare minimum for your body to stay healthy and not have these issues like bone densities or, vitamin D disorders. And some people require injections and stuff for their vitamin D as well and stuff. So
talking about energy levels, when did you start feeling like human again and feeling good after surgery?
I remember feeling very like 3:30itis for like months.
Yeah, but my 3:30itis was like at 10 o'clock in the morning.
No, literally my 3:30itis went on for months. Yeah. Like it was that feeling of like you get at the end of the day, we like, and I had that for a while, and it was purely because I wasn't feeling enough. I was under feeling, and I was going like, oh, this is just, but it was. Looking back, it was just because I wasn't eating enough. I was doing too much. So my body was just worn out a lot. Where now looking back, I should have just focused more on having that regular schedule of eating. As much as I'm like, oh, I lost a lot of weight really fast. It was also I was feeling really crappy because my body wasn't doing very well. So yeah.
Thinking about early stages, liquid, puree, that sort of thing, I know that you were in a very different place to where I was because you were going through a separation and all that. But were you out and about? Or did you sort of stay?
No, I was pretty depressed. I was too busy crying in the shower and stuff. That was my hobby.
I know that a lot of people, their biggest fear after surgery, or one is that, during that first couple of months, they can't go out and socialize with people. Yeah. They can't have food. They can't do that. You hear a lot of people saying that, when they're on puree stage, they go through the KFC drive-through and get potato and gravy and that sort of stuff. Like, I was just going to ask you what you would sort of eat when you were out and about, but you didn't really go.
No, I didn't really get out. And I think going to my mum's house, I would nitpick whatever they had on there. Because that was kind of my outing, was just going to my mum's house. Yep. And I was trying to not socialize because I was feeling really down.
Went to, is it called Rolled? The little Vietnamese place. They do like faux soup and all that sort of stuff. And you can actually ask them just for the broth.
Yeah.
And it's like $1.50 and they'll give you a coffee cup full of just the chicken broth or whatever it is. It's the base of the soups that they use in their kitchen.
Question as well, like, sorry, I might have cut you off a little bit there. But I just thought then, in your little journal, can you tell us when we first started hanging out? Because that was kind of like, I was scrolling through mine. I'm like, I feel like we met like 6 months out or something.
Yeah, I'll have a look.
Yeah.
But yeah, so whilst I'm scrolling back through that, it would have been just around my birthday.
Yeah.
Which was September.
Yeah, so it was.
April, May, June, July, August, September. 5-6 months out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like the broth you could get from like Asian restaurants, that was really good. I found that really helpful. And you can go out, just order soups.
Yeah.
Order soft things off the menu. Like get some dumplings and just don't eat the dumpling housing. Get like a fork and mash the stuff, the filling from in the middle.
Because that was always a big thing, like going out with friends and like, you know, having that awkward encounter of like asking for things off kids' menus and stuff like that. That takes a little bit. These days I go out and I'm like, I'll have that and I'll just share it with the leader. Yeah. Or if I do want the kids, I'll be like, oh no, I had bariatric surgery. You know, back then you kind of quite awkward about it and you're like, oh, I really loved the food but I didn't have much of it, you know, because, you know, I just wasn't hungry. And
or like go out for breakfast and get the smashed avo but just without the toast. You know? There's so many different ways around it. Like you just got to be a little bit creative.
Yeah.
Some creative.
Yeah. But your first 6 months, what would be your big tip for someone in that kind of?
Be creative.
Be creative.
Trust the process. I know it sounds cliche. Take all the photos. Guys, if you're pre-op at the moment, take damn photos.
Yeah.
You're going to hate them at the moment, but it's going to be your biggest, like, take your photos, take your measurements, because you will stall. I know I was looking through here and I think it was week 14. I hit my very first, like, proper stall and it was heartbreaking. Like, you know, it sucked. But then you kind of go, oh, well, I've gone from a size 18 to a size 14.
Yeah.
You know, or I've lost 30 centimeters in total. Like you've got other things to sort of work off. It's not, yeah. Take photos.
I think me for the first 6 months, again, I think trust process is a great one, but I think setting a plan with your dietitian and sticking to it, like with your food plan, as much as you're not going to be hungry and you're kind of like, well, if I don't eat that much and I exercise, that'll be great. I think using a plan and working on understanding why you have it, because that first year, as much as it's important for weight loss, and that first 6 months is important for weight loss, because obviously there's that whole plateau after that first year. I think putting habits in place in that first 6 months and 12 will ensure that that past 12 months, you'll continue to lose weight because you're implementing habits and you're going to be a product of your lifestyle anyway. So if you kind of go, I have this freedom from always being hungry, which was always my biggest thing, and it's not such a focus, that you can kind of go, I'm just going to maybe look at implementing walking, or start trying to go and do yoga, or like start trying to do these little things and entertaining your brain with other things while your food's got this, you know, food isn't such a forefront. That's time well used in that first year, rather than, you know, how much can I not eat.
And I think as well, setting realistic goals too. Like if you're for the first 6 months, like, and if you've never been somebody who enjoys exercise, don't go, I'm going to learn how to run 5Ks. It's probably not going to happen.
Yeah.
You know, set out, go, I'm going to go for a 10-minute walk every day. Or I'm going to walk to the end of my street every single day. I don't care. Non-negotiable, walk to the end of my street every single day. And then once you've gotten that, then you go, okay, well, I'm going to walk to the end of my street and the next street. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like habit stacking, habits, like just, you know,
or even like
one bit at a time.
Even doing like understanding nutrition
or
like educating yourself. That's time well spent in that first
education
year.
and
implementing habits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And being realistic. I think that's, you know, I think it's a very...
Yeah, because you got to think, it's as much as you feel pressure in that first year to kind of lose the weight, that's the first year of the rest of your life. So you need to kind of look well forward and be like, okay, I'm going to start changing in order to get change.
Yeah. Is
a huge thing. So guys, trust the process. Bariatric surgery is an amazing tool. Don't compare. Man, I have all the lines for that first 6-12 months because I'm probably... learn from my mistakes.
Don't do what Shannon did.
Yeah, no, like I was very successful in the scales, but I could have done it so much better looking back. And it was just setting a plan, working with my dietitian, understanding, using that time to understand why I had those issues in the first place, because it's before long you lose the weight and then those little habits start returning, and then it becomes super overwhelming, you know, when we start talking about the 2.5 years down the track, when you're trying to like, you know, navigate through those. If I had to use that first year to kind of start the process earlier and start understanding, you know, my relationship with food when I had all that freedom, I think it would have made the track down the line a little bit less overwhelming. So guys, that is our class. That's our
masterclass.
No, not a masterclass. But this is like our podcast for those 6 months. Just enjoy. Welcome to the Losers Bench. If you are in those stages and you're in the first 6 months, enjoy it, roll with it, trust the process.
Reach out to people who are in the same sort of time frame as you. If you guys want to have a chat and like have a look at my stuff that I was eating when I was.
Yeah, I'll try and add a bit to the stories.
I'll get Shan to pop some in there. But like, I mean, I'm just be creative, enjoy it, eat food that you can.
And if you have any information you want to share with the Bari community, reach out to us on Instagram, and we're happy to share anything you found important for that first 6 months. If you have any tips, tricks, anything, please share it with us because we'd love to pass it on. But guys, that is another episode of
Bari Banter.
Why, yes, that is another episode of Bari Banter in the books. We hope you got a little something from that one.
Head on over to Facebook or Instagram and check us out, or go to baribanter.com where you can watch past episodes, give us feedback, and let us know who you want to hear from next.
We love you all, and as always, please stay beautiful.